Thank you, Representative Wilson. Apologize for being late and not hearing your testimony. I've tried to skim your testimony and get the flavor of it. I have been a member of the Turkey Caucus now for the entire 13 years I've been in Congress. I've been a co-chair the whole time, and a strong advocate for Turkey as a long-standing friend of the United States who supported us from Korea on and maybe prior to that. And I have DNA evidence and whatever that I have certain Turkish family years back. So I have an affinity for Turkey. But the activities of Mr. Erdogan has made it difficult to continue having the same thoughts that I've had about Turkey. It's made me think about why my grandfather might have left. It was about pre-1912 that he left, and I've always opposed the Armenian resolution and voted for it this week. And voted for it because Turkey doesn't seem to respect the United States at all. I've had this staff come see me, embassy staff, and I talked to them about how difficult it was when the bodyguards beat up folks here in Washington and how that was unacceptable, and he defended it. And I asked about the Kurds and the possibility of having a zone there with the United States and the UN protecting it and being able to protect Turkey from its fear of Kurdish/PKK activities, and they were not interested in that at all. Obviously, they had an idea that this was coming. I don't know what's going to happen to the Kurds. I think now is when the ceasefire has come to an end with the Russian ceasefire. And I can just say this, that the mood of the Congress has changed as well. And there were never 218 votes for the Armenian resolution. There were, what was it, close to 400, 380 something, whatever. This was because of Erdogan and his tactics. Kemal Mustafa would be turning over. There's probably an eruption in Ankara. What he did for Turkey was heroic and great. He was one of the great men of the world, and he was a person I respect greatly. What he looked for is not going on in Turkey. And when I was there the last time, it's been many years, there were pictures of Ataturk everywhere. Everywhere. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like Dr. King in parts of my community, or Kennedy or whatever, revered. Erdogan wants to take Ataturk's place. I don't know how many of his pictures have been removed. Maybe none. I suspect quite a few. But it's not the same country. And the country doesn't stand for the things those pictures stand for. Ataturk's spirit, Ataturk's visage stands for democracy, human rights, modernization. No longer present. So, Ms. Toll, is it Toll? You say basically there are problems, but we should not give up on Turkey. And I understand that, but at the same time, it's difficult. And it's not, you say the United States is not thought of so well in Turkey. Turkey's not thought so well of here anymore either. And the more they go over to Russia, and the more whatever happens with the Kurds, I suspect there's going to be some atrocious actions in the next few weeks, and it's not going to help.
That's right. I completely agree with the fact that it's a very difficult position. But with all due respect, Mr. Congressman, you talked about the genocide resolution that was just recently passed, and you talked about that happened, and you changed your mind about that because Erdogan was not cooperating. You talked about his bodyguards' behavior. They were all appalling. But on the other hand, I think that genocide resolution has to be about genocide. and it should not be weaponized and politicized based on the day-to-day relations between Turkey and the United States. Genocide is a historical fact, and it should be that resolution should have passed because it's a historical fact. And also, I think it is, Turkey-US partnership has been going through its most difficult period, but on the other hand, one must recognize that Turkey is bigger than Erdogan. We've seen that in the most recent elections, and you have to keep engaging Turkey. You have to keep engaging the opposition and the other half of the country that is very optimistic about the country's future and that are not happy with what Erdogan has taken, the way Erdogan has turned the country into an authoritarian place. So that's why I think for the United States it's important to keep engaging Turkey and not lose hope. And also the sanctions issue is problematic. If you're going to sanction Turkey, you have to make sure that you do not hurt the people. So those sanctions need to be limited in scope and targeted. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I appreciate your perspective, and I understand it. And I mean, I understand on the genocide resolution, there's the idea of historians or the idea of politicians. But what I'm saying is just the reality. There was a break, and there was no way to hold back that onslaught. And that onslaught came because people said, we've had enough. Beating up our guards and people in Washington with disdain and just brute force. And it's that, and you worry what they're going to do to the Kurds. Will it be a repeat of what they allegedly did to the Armenians? And I'm just saying, Turkey and Erdogan, they want to be with Putin. I know some other politicians that want to be with Putin. They're not going to be around forever either.